Hello and welcome to the Barefoot Bushcraft radio show. I'm the Wolfmaan, and today is April 20th, 2013, and this is our very first show. So I'm waiting for my co-host, A.D. Venture, should come on into the show, and we will get started. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Again, my name is the Wolfmaan. You can visit us online at www.barefootbushcraft.com and see a little bit about what we do. We are an outdoor education facility, and in that facility we do things like teach courses on outdoor education and bushcraft. So one of the big questions, of course, always is what is bushcraft? What does it mean? What is it about? Bushcraft in general is a form of survival skills. It means taking the information around you, taking the stuff that's around you, different twigs, different plants, different things that you find on the earth, and making it into something that's useful. Bushcraft almost always has tools that we use, including your knife, and there's different schools of thought on what knife is the best knife to use, and those are the sort of things that we are going to talk about on the show. So I will tell you a little bit more about myself. I am an outdoor education and primitive skills instructor. I have 2 college diplomas in outdoor education, one in wildlife forestry conservation and one in recreation and leisure services. I have worked for some of the world's largest organizations to do with outdoor education, including the YMCA. I've worked for places like Heartland Forest in Niagara Falls, and all kinds of other agencies like that. Currently, I am working as a person doing outdoor education in a... Oh, hold on just one second. Oh, my apologies there. In a context where I'm teaching students. So we are just going to go to commercial here, and we will be right back.
Get ready for the epic new documentary adventure ride of your life. Shade the Motion Picture. Hub you into the globalist domain and embellish and Burma's film.
Nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Governments do not operate the way you think they do. Banks do not do what you think they do. The police department is not here for what you think it is. Nothing in your world works the way you think it does.
We are here to let them know that their world government has been identified, and they thought they'd implode the world economy to bring in a worldwide police state, but instead it's going to bring them down.
You have to stand up, speak up, speak out.
Shade the Motion Picture. Order your copy of the DVD today at shadethemotionpicture.com.
All right, welcome back. So we had just started some of our discussion here on bushcraft and outdoor education, telling you a little bit about myself and my background. I'm a lifelong enthusiast of outdoor education, and my co-host, of course, A.D. Venture, who is on his way in right now, is also a primitive skills, survival skills instructor. I can give you a little bit of information about him until he manages to arrive. He's a lifelong enthusiast of nature and Canadian wilderness. He's totally enamored by the infinite beauty of the world that surrounds us. One of the greatest passions that A.D. Venture has is to empower others with the knowledge that he has so that we can benefit, all of us can benefit for the rest of our lives. The great thing about this is the 2 of us work really, really well together in delivering kind of a holistic approach to outdoor education and bushcraft. We'll tell you a little bit more about him when he finally ends up arriving. So one of the things that we always look for in the news is incidents that show that sometimes people manage to get them in trouble when they don't actually have training and skills, or they make mistakes. They always say that an emergency in the wilderness is not actually something that you do intentionally. It's not always something that happens for the result of one large incident that has happened, but it's actually a whole bunch of little tiny things that happen. The article that I'm going to talk to you about right now appears in the Toronto Star. That's a Canadian newspaper. And the title is Toronto Doctor Trapped in Arizona Cliff. And she said she knew she was in deep trouble. Now, if you are in the Freedomizer Radio chat room, I will put that information right there. And you can go on there and have a read of the article. And basically what it says is this young lady who was a doctor. She was a member of Search and Rescue, and she ended up in Arizona. She went there on a hike, and she found herself getting herself in some trouble. She said she found herself, I can read you a little bit of an excerpt here. It said it wasn't the threat of the mountain lions or the darkness that terrified Toronto eye doctor Elise Heron as she sat huddled halfway up an Arizona cliff. She threw a stone over the edge to determine how high she was. She couldn't hear how far it was to the ground, like she didn't hear that snap. So obviously this lady was educated in the wilderness, educated in what she does. And then she said, I knew I was in deep trouble. What she ended up doing is, looks like she used her mobile phone and got some help. She did some recording. It did end up on YouTube, kind of interesting. And if you read through the article, you'll see it sort of tell you one of the things that the different things that she did, right? It says that, she went on to call Search and Rescue. She sat at the edge of a cliff. And unfortunately, the problem is a lot of times, and we see this a lot as outdoor educators, is people go out into the woods and they assume that just because they are human, just because they are individuals of our race, that we somehow have some kind of entitlement out there in nature. And the most unfortunate part about that is in nature, all things are equal. As an individual in nature, you are just a part of that nature. You have just as much right to be eaten as you do to eat. So what separates us apart from, say, a chipmunk or something else that gets out there in the world is that we have tools and equipment. We have knives and backpacks and clothing, things like that, to help us deal with the way things seem to work in nature just a little bit better. Oftentimes, we will go down into some very treacherous and dangerous areas as adventurers, and we will see people in parks on the edges of these really steep cliffs, and they won't bring anything with them but a bottle of water. And we will talk to these individuals and say, hey, is it a good idea that you're down here just with this? And usually they will say, oh yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And the reality is everything usually is fine, but there's always that, that possibility that something is going to go wrong. So if you're out in a precarious situation and there's no one available to assist you, what are you going to do? Right? You're kind of stuck out there. You may be in a situation where you can't get yourself out. And certainly if you're in a situation like that, there isn't a whole lot of things that you can do other than rely on your own training and education. You have to look at yourself, look at your skills, look at your equipment, and make sure that wherever it is that you venture out to go and have fun, that you are going to make sure that you come back alive to your family every day or every night. And how you do that, the best part is now you can learn a lot of stuff about this on the internet. But with the internet, you don't always have the opportunity to hone your skills. It's like if I were to read stories and watch YouTube videos on the different things about wilderness education, say how to use a bow drill, for example, or a hand drill. What that is basically two pieces of wood that you rub together to create a bunch of friction. That friction heats up to the point where you create a coal. So when you have that coal, then you can put tinder in it and you can create a fire, basically using no tools but what you find on the ground. So I can watch tons and tons of videos about this, but until I actually get out there and I kick off my shoes and I put my bare feet and hold that piece of wood down with my toes, there's no real way for me to understand or comprehend how that process works. Very similar to driving a car. You can read any kind of book you want on driving a vehicle, especially if it's a manual transmission. But until you're pushing in that clutch and jamming it into a gear, you really have no concept of what it's actually like to be behind the wheel. The exact same thing goes for wilderness skills. Many people that we talk to and that we meet, they say, oh, I have all these skills. Oh, yeah, I've read this book. I read the book by that Barefoot Cody Lundeen guy, and I read this book or that book. But then you ask them, well, when's the last time you sat down and practiced those skills? And they will say, well, I'm sure I know them. I don't need to practice them. Like anything else in life, unfortunately, we do need to practice these skills. With practicing wilderness skills, you don't have to go out into your far reaches of the wilderness and have a great wilderness experience. Many people, some of the instructors that I know, they will practice bow drill and hand drill skills. They will practice tarp and shelter buildings in their own backyard. They will practice these skills in a park. And then when they get very good at these skills, they will say, okay, let's try it now. Let's try starting a fire when it's raining out. Because, as all of you know, very few times does anyone get lost in the wilderness when it's nice and sunny and 20 degrees outside or 20 degrees Celsius outside, right? It's always miserable, raining, cold. The worst possible survival conditions are when you do get lost. So it's always important to take your skills out there into the wilderness and try them out on a regular basis. It's great watching YouTube videos and buying the best equipment, Ferocium Rods, all this stuff to use for starting fires. But if you never use them, don't know how you're going to react, you don't know how they're going to react. Now, I'd like to invite any of my listeners, of course, to please take the opportunity to call in the show, call in our show at our call-in number, which is area code 347, phone number 324-3704. And when it comes on, there's like an automated system that will come on. Please press the number 1 on your electronic keypad, and I will see that you want to come on and talk on the show. I welcome all discussions, any information that you may have that you would like to share with us, or any discussion you would like to have. Of course, you are always welcome to come on and talk. So I'm going to move along a little bit with our show plan. Unfortunately, again, at the moment, my co-host is on MIA, but I'm sure he's going to show up at some point today. So moving on from the possibility of needing your skills and equipment and practicing those skills, something that I like to do all the time, like we're going to call this a gear review segment of our show. So I'm going to talk about a couple of products that I really love to use. Professionally, I am a gear reviewer. So I get companies from all around the world, like Voodoo, Tactical, and Condor Outdoor, and they send me products on a regular basis, including Right in the Rain. And I review these products and I make publicity videos for them. And usually you can find those on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Barefoot Bushcraft. But the Barefoot, the 2 O's, actually have 2 zeros in it. So I'm going to throw that on our website, on the Freedomizer Radio site as well. So that, again, that's youtube.com/Barefoot, but the 2 O's in Barefoot are zeros. Barefoot Bushcraft. There we are. So anybody who would like to go and have a look at some of those, you are more than welcome to do that. A lot of interesting stuff on our show about first aid and stuff like that. Just take me a moment here. So one of the things I'd like to talk to you about, I had mentioned briefly earlier, is something called a ferro rod or a ferocium rod. Now what this is it is a highly involatile, so it's not something that poses any kind of health risk or anything like that. And it is a piece of metal mounted in a handle. You can get these in almost any outdoor store. They're called fire steel as well. And what it is it's a unidirectional, so it only works going in one direction, rod. And it comes with a striker. And how those work is you hit the striker onto the metal, and it creates a massive amount of sparks and heat. And those sparks and heat are able to start fires when you put some tinder together. So they are a very, very useful tool. And by involatile means you can throw it on your key ring, you can throw it in your pocket, in your backpack, anything like that. And when you do that, you are able to start a fire at any time, anywhere, right? And they're really important tools to have because they work no matter what the weather conditions are. If the weather conditions are really good or the weather conditions are really poor, you can still start a fire. So I have a caller here coming in, and I'm going to bring you on. Hello, caller. Welcome to Barefoot Bushcraft.
Hi there, Wolf. This is A.D. Venture.
Well, hello. I'm glad you could make it.
Sorry about the technical issues. I'm finally connected.
Oh, that's no problem at all. That's great. I'm glad to have you on the show. So I was just talking a little bit about Ferocium Rods, but we'll back up a little bit to talk a little bit more about yourself. So I'd like to welcome everyone to A.D. Venture, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. And sorry if I stole a little of your thunder there, and I gave you a bit of an intro earlier, but go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Wolf. It's always appreciated. My name is A.D. Venture, and I'm a lifelong enthusiast of just nature and the outdoors. I've absolutely loved the Canadian wilderness since I've been a young lad, and I'm just enamored by the infinite beauty of the world that surrounds us. One of the greatest passions of mine actually is to empower others with knowledge so that they in turn can utilize and benefit this for the rest of their lives. There's really nothing that makes me more happy than to see other people utilize knowledge that I've learned, that I've taught them, and just make it their own and just, surprise me with how well they can adapt and even sometimes do it better than I can. But essentially, I'm an outdoor educator. I was initially, educated in information technology, but it just became a bore to me. There was no more challenge, and again, being a lifelong enthusiast of the outdoors, I decided to make a passion of mine into a full-time career. So here I am hosting this show with Wolf.
Wow, now that's an interesting story that you brought up. That you had an office job. And it's kind of funny, and it's something that we will probably explore over and over again in the coming time. I myself as well had an office job before. And then, you get something, you have an event that happens, whether it's like, you go on a trek or just something changes in your life, and it's like time to move into the outdoors. So did you have a specific event or thing that happened to you that moved you out there?
Well, I would say it was more always a nagging feeling. It's kind of, I guess, ironic or funny just to mention the movie The Matrix, but it's just one of those things where you feel that something's not right. And again, to be quite honest, I was extremely good in my field, and I was being paid extremely well in certain jobs, and I was in fairly big demand to the point where I actually had to turn away fairly large contracts and stuff because, again, I was so busy with all these different activities. But I knew that there was something lacking, and again, I've always loved a challenge. But going back to my love of nature and being a young child and just immersing in that in a time where kids were actually allowed to go out and enjoy nature for the day, I really noticed that there was something there, and the fact that I just wasn't happy in my job. I just realized, if I got laid off, I was going to make that decision to move in a totally different direction.
Wow, that's really wild. And I had something as well, very similar. I was working at a call center as a corporate trainer, and my job there, of course, was people would come in and I would they called it induction training, teach them about corporate culture, and I was indoors all day. And, on a nice day when I would take my break and it would be like 20 Celsius outside, 25 Celsius, I would look around and go, I really would want to be outside. I mean, the air-conditioned office and all that stuff is really nice, but it is certainly not the same by any stance of being out there, getting your hands dirty, getting the dirt under your toenails, just getting out there.
Well, you were actually one of the lucky ones. Sorry, I was just going to say you're one of the lucky ones because you could actually see the outdoors. In some of my employment positions, I was stuck in the bowels of large concrete buildings and never got a chance to see, the sunrise or the sunset. I was in there, before the morning would start, and even, after the sun would set in the evening. So again, slaving in an office position really gives you a good insight to what's out there, because it's truly a limited place to live your life, really.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and of course, as everyone knows who works in the corporate world, there are some really great benefits to being in that environment, right? I mean, you have pensions and you have security, and you'd be able to afford a nice car and a condominium or a house, or, and raise a family and all that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's many of us out there, yourself and myself included, and it's like there's got to be more to life than getting up, going to work every day, coming home, watching TV. And what do you watch on TV, right? You watch travel shows, at least in my case, or outdoor adventure shows, and go, geez, I wish I had the time to do that. So yeah, that's how it happened for me, is I would watch these shows that would be like, it's time to move and do something. I'm getting older. I don't want to mess around and lose this opportunity. So I ended up hiking the Bruce Trail end to end. And I was talking to an individual who was a friend of mine, another adventurer. He was a polar explorer. And he's like, hey, you got to tell people about this. Like, what you're doing is unique. You're going to be doing the whole trail in your bare feet. Like, that may have never been done. So I did it, and I realized how beautiful the world can be when you travel on foot, versus by plane or car or whatever. And by the end of the trail, it was like, no way, I cannot go back to an office. And I'm sure you probably had a very similar experience with that.
Absolutely. It's if you work in an office type job, you get sort of dulled to the world around you. So eventually you might not notice these things, but if you get a chance to ever remove yourselves from that droning experience, you do actually realize that there is a lot more, just like Wolf is saying. But neither of us is encouraging that you just drop everything and just go and live in the woods like some bushman or something like that. But, if you spend a day, even in a small little park, and just bother to take off your socks and your shoes and place your bare feet onto the grass for 5-10 minutes, you will notice a difference. There's so much more to being barefoot than what society has imposed upon us. And unlike Wolf, I'm not a barefooter. I mean, I love boots, and I love having some good footwear and all. But at the end of the day, I have to admit that when I put my feet up, they're buzzing. They're feeling unright. And I've noticed this from time and time again, that all I really have to do is just place my bare feet on the ground itself, and my body regenerates. And there's so much more to that than we place the importance on. And we really should, at least consider. We don't have to, just jump on, having bare feet everywhere. But, experience it at a small, gradual time, just like everything else, going out to experience nature, going out to try all these different experiences. You'll start to connect with yourself and realize what, in fact, is important in life.
Absolutely. And I think that connection with nature by individuals, whether it comes through, being with your bare feet in nature, or just sometimes being out in nature. I mean, one of the things, a good friend of mine who is an outdoor educator as well, she says that, you in a crowded room, you ask everybody to just close their eyes and say, go to your happy place. And very few, if anyone's happy place is, at the cafe downtown, or, it's in my office building. Almost every single person's internal, innate happy place is like the beach or the woods or the top of a mountain. It's always an outdoor place. And it's because I think we have that human connection. For millions of years, we've lived off the land. It's only the last, 1,000 or so years that we have been living in a city-type urban environment. And I think we're hardwired from birth to have that yearning to be outside. And many people will say that, office people will say, I have that yearning to go camping every year, or canoe trips or something, to make that nature connection. And I think it's so important. We're having young people growing up in 100% urban environments where they are not exploring streams and catching frogs and crayfish and learning all of these bushcraft skills when they're young, they grow up and they miss these things. And we're starting to see evidence. Like, I personally think that there's something missing in life, and I see evidence out there. And there are various studies done all around the world that are saying the less nature you have in your life, the more problems you're going to have. Now, I'm sure you might be able to quote me on some of the studies about that you've read.
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up my browser here. Which studies are you referring to?
Studies by different organizations that will give you some scientific evidence that being in nature reduces autism. It reduces all sorts of childhood diseases. I can give you a perfect example of that while you look that up. I work at one of the private boarding schools I work at. I have some students who come from South American countries. And one of the first questions, of course, here in a North American environment is, who has allergies? Who has dietary needs? Or, you eat very common here is like nut allergies, right? You eat a nut, you go into anaphylaxis, potentially die. Out of 30 kids, no hand goes up. And, I talk to some of the other facilitators and teachers, and they say in these other South American countries that the children grow up with more nature. It's not like, oh, my God, if you wear shoes and if you don't wear your shoes or gloves and all this stuff, your feet are going to fall off. Like, we have that mentality here. You're healthier. They don't have the food allergies. They don't have all of these other problems that we seem to consistently have in the North American environment.
Well, there's a lot of different organizations. I mean, there's organizations that have started up alone just for the fact that children are showing the nature deficit disorder that has been classified in the last 15, 20 years. And, you can find organizations all over the world that specifically try to reintegrate the human person back into activities that involve them with nature. And, again, that's a big reason why you're seeing such a big resurgence in bushcraft-related skills, in primitive-related skills, survival. All these things really just are connecting back to our core as we are as humans. And we can see that with our burgeoning interest in these skills. We've always had them in us. It's just that we've been dulled by our society around us, and it's just a matter of just getting reconnected with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that even when I have adults in courses, and I as much as I really do enjoy bringing the wilderness to children, I just as much enjoy bringing it to adults, because as adults, we have had a huge disconnect between ourselves and nature, like we were just talking about. But once they get out there, a lady that I know, her name is Sue Kenney, and she is the inventor of a really amazing product called barebottom shoes, and we'll talk about that a little later. Sue is one of the most vibrant and amazing and dynamic women that I have had the opportunity to meet. And she says when her people that she takes out on tours and people that she meets, as soon as you get out into nature and you can feel nature, you become happy. She said it's like you take off your shoes and socks, or you just sit on a tree in nature, and all of your stress just disappears. You become happy. And I noticed that too as well with my adult learners. You take them out into the wilderness, you teach them all this stuff, and it's like, I had the best time today in my whole life, And it's like, really, because all we did was just do archery for 3 hours, or whatever the course may be that they're doing. That it seems to feed something so deep inside you, something so primal. That's one of the reasons we called our company Barefoot Bushcraft, is not specifically because we run around without our shoes on, but it simplifies a very deep and primal connection to the earth that you get from doing that.
Absolutely.
So I know you had a couple of articles you wanted to discuss on the air. I had talked briefly about the Toronto doctor who became trapped, and about how challenging it is when you go out into the wilderness and there's many people out there who bring no supplies. Even on a simple day hike, how it can turn tragic. A perfect example of that. I'm sorry?
No, sorry. I was going to say thank you for bringing that up. I wasn't sure because of my little technical difficulties if you had been able to cover that article, but I think it's really important for our listeners.
Absolutely. And things like, I don't know if any of our viewers have seen a movie, I believe the title was 127 Hours, if that's the correct. And
that is correct.
It is a young gentleman who ventures out on what should be an average day hike out into the desert, and he falls down a giant crevasse, and he gets trapped down there, and this is a totally true story. He had to use a dull dollar store Swiss Army knife to cut off his own arm. And there was a lot of mistakes that were made in this movie that he made as an individual in this movie to put him in that situation. One of the things that we are taught as outdoor educators is you never go out into the woods, not even on a day hike, without letting someone know. And it can be something as simple as a phone call. Hey, AD Venture, I'm heading out to the gorge for the day. I'll call you tonight. If I don't call you by 6, try to get in touch with me. That simple. That way, if I end up down in a crevasse, I don't have to cut my own arm off, with a dollar store quality Swiss Army knife. And I think these things are so important. I mean, there's for doing out tripping and the higher end things that we get involved in. Of course, we do things like file actual trip plans, right? With all names of our participants and all that sort of thing. But we see it time and time again. And I don't know what your feeling is on that kind of activity.
Well, there's so many different aspects of this case that we can talk about, but for saving time and so forth, we'll only cover the more important ones. Here in Ontario, Canada, certain jurisdictions of search and rescue operators will actually charge the person they're rescuing if they deem it necessary, which I personally believe is absolutely necessary. You have literally hundreds of cases a year where somebody who didn't bother to take a compass or a map with them forced the search and rescuers to go and find them when they could have easily saved themselves or prevented the whole situation altogether and cost the taxpayers, that's you and me, money that was unnecessarily spent on saving someone that should have known better. Again, in this time of age, we should really be concentrating on personal accountability. If we do something wrong, we should take accountability and accept responsibility for it because it's what we've done. Unfortunately, here in Ontario, the government is forced to change the rules so that they have to charge individuals, or at least it's encouraged to charge individuals that inappropriately put the search and rescuers at risk, which is absolutely the case. In this particular article, which I've posted in our chat, this was a Toronto ophthalmologist who worked for one of the biggest hospitals, actually in North America, the Hospital for Sick Children. She already had been visiting Arizona, was calling herself an avid hiker and such, and she got herself stuck on a cliff. Many people have already commented that she didn't purposely, but we don't know that, wandered off the marked trail into areas that were clearly unsafe and found herself stuck overnight on a cliff. And the article goes on to say, she was able to keep herself sane, and keep herself safe and so forth. But really, someone of her position, who supposedly is a consistent hiker, goes to Arizona many times, should have known better. And here in Ontario, she would have definitely have been charged for a search and rescue operation for her. But it looks like they're in Arizona. They're a little more forgiving to foreigners who seem to be a little clueless.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, there are times, and I have myself. If you go onto my YouTube channel, I did a video once of I went out on a canoe trip, and it was a beautiful day, forecast to be nice weather for the week. It started to rain, of course. Being a bit of a badass, I was like, I'm just gonna go out in the rain. I'm tough. I get to the island, which is a kilometer off the coast of Lake Superior, and it turned into gale force winds, and I got trapped there for like 4 days. So I ended up, in that case, I may have had to call search and rescue had it gone on past my supplies, but that was something that I had no control over. So with that, we are going to go to commercial right now, and we will be back in about 3 to 5 minutes.
I am an autonomous government agent here to steal your livelihood. Not so fast. I'm Sovereign Filing Solutions.
And I'm the Sovereign. We're teamed up
to bring you
the truth without censorship.
Are you tired of being fed multi-million-dollar media lies?
Are you ready for the real story?
Sovereign Filing Solutions has teamed up with the Sovereign newspaper to make sure you get it.
And not the BS this guy behind me wants to feed you.
Take the step, help make the change. Oh, come on, that's not even fair. How are we supposed to rule indiscriminately if you know what's going on?
We are so pleased to announce ESP Botanicals is now sponsoring Freedomizer Radio. They have a bath and body line of products made for keeping your skin beautiful and healthy, but it's also for psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, and dermatitis treatment. They are meticulously prepared skincare products made from the best botanicals available, committed to buying only from the growers when they can and using the highest quality cold-pressed oils, botanical organic additives, the best steam-expressed essential oils, and the least processed carrier oils that are available in today's marketplace. Pamper yourself or someone special in your life. Give the gift of beautiful, glowing skin. ESPbotanicals.com. Thank you so much for supporting us at Freedomizer Radio.
Hello again, Freedomist Proof is here, and I want to talk to you about a brand new soda maker called SodaStream. Now, the Proof House has had SodaStream for about a year, and we love the thing. We use it quite often. With SodaStream, you can have fresh-made soda in seconds. One of the big things we like about it is that there's no high-fructose corn syrup and no aspartame. There's over 60 flavors, or you can create your own. Not just sodas, they also have iced teas and energy drinks. Here at the Proof House, we make egg cream sodas all the time. Some other facts to consider here: there's no electricity, no more wasted bottles and cans, and the most important thing is that it tastes great. Keep in mind, too, this is a perfect family present for Christmas, or, hey, just surprise the family with something great. Also, for a limited time, there's free shipping, so go to Freedomizerradio.com and look for the SodaStream link, and I hope you check out the product. That's SodaStream right on Freedomizerradio.com.
Thank you for tuning in to Freedomizer Radio, where we have a 24/7 chat room where you can come and share what's going on in the world with people of like mind. Anything and everything against the New World Order. Dial 347-324-3704 to catch our live show. Beginning at 9 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday till midnight, and 9 to 9 on Saturday and Sunday. Take us to the beach. Take us to the park. Take us on a walk with the dog. Only on Freedomizer Radio.
When tyranny rears its ugly head, will you bow and serve, or will you stand and fight?
Hi, everybody. This is Barack Obama. You get this hunger.
Everybody here wants the pie. We want to grow the pie, and then we want to fight for the pie.
When freedom is threatened, will you turn a blind eye, or will you sound the alarm?
The private sector is doing fine.
Hey folks, this is the Mouth, host of the Last Voice for Liberty Network. Tune in Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific, 11 Central for your ultimate dose of liberty, right here on FreedomizerRadio.com.
What can we get done right now?
What?
This is the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now?
What?
This is the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now?
And welcome back. Thank you for listening to our sponsors. Please consider them, of course, all the time, as they are the ones who help make Barefoot Bushcraft show possible. So one of the things we are going to talk about today, in lieu of discussing a little bit about some of these people who go out into the woods and they somehow get themselves into a precarious situation and have to get rescued, is something that we call in the business your EDC, or your everyday carry. Now, this is near and true to my heart. As an individual involved in search and rescue operations all the time, we always have to have an EDC with us at all times, because the simple reason that we might be sitting around, having coffee or at work or whatever, the alarm goes off, somebody's gotten lost, we have to go and rescue them. Now, an everyday carry is something that, if you look it up on the internet, you'll find a lot of really great information on there about it. Most of it is very American-centric, and for some reason, most of it, especially when it comes to individuals from the United States, involves carrying a handgun of some sort. Of course, in a lot of countries in the world, in fact, in most countries of the world, firearms are tightly controlled. I know here in Canada, if I were to wander around with a handgun on my hip, under most circumstances in the public, I would get myself in trouble, arrested, and so on. And I'm sure some of our listeners from other countries may have the same thing happen to them. If anybody is interested, please, of course, give us a call to discuss this. We'll give you the phone number here. Area code is 347-324-3704. So I'll leave it over to you, A.D. Venture, to talk a little bit about your everyday carry. I know you have some interesting items that you carry on an everyday thing in case you were to go find yourself in that situation. Maybe you want to discuss a little bit about how you may need an everyday carry, why you would need it.
Absolutely. And before I continue, I actually just want to clarify with our listeners. In the previous segment, we were discussing a Toronto doctor who'd put herself in a precarious situation. Even though I'm, projecting an unforgiving attitude, I'm not an uncaring person, but my issue really more is with people who know better. How am I to blame someone who's never, been out in the, used to call the wilderness before, for getting lost or for getting disoriented or something like that. But for someone in her position who, again, supposedly, because I'm going off what she is supposedly told the newspaper, she had experience in this. And therefore, I have an issue with that, not just for, the fact that she has put herself in peril, but for the fact that other people, the search and rescuers, have put themselves in peril. These people are just like the emergency medical services, the police, the firefighters that protect all of us. Again, that's what they're doing. They're protecting us. And if in turn they've got to risk their lives for someone who didn't necessarily need to put their lives in risk, it's just unnecessary. So I just want the listeners to understand that, my concern really is with those that should have known better, as opposed to those that just needed the information in the first place and were just ignorant of that. Right? And there's nothing wrong with being ignorant in a subject as long as you're willing to learn from it. But that being said, about everyday carry.
Now, just before we go on, we actually have a caller coming in. If it's okay, I'm going to bring them on. It'll just take me a moment.
Welcome, caller.
It's patching us through here. It's just taking a moment to patch us through here. For whatever reason, it's taking its time. There we go. Hello, and welcome to the Barefoot Bushcraft Show. You're on the air live.
Thank you. First of all, about that woman that kind of had a moment of I give everybody one mistake. It's if they repeat the mistake, that's when I get ticked off at them. I mean, even the most experienced people have a moment of
Absolutely, you have a great point there.
Now in Texas, we go out in the wilderness, we can carry something with us. And for those that live in a more restricted governmental environment, per se, and if they let you carry a shotgun, man, that's just as good, if not better, than my Ruger Red Hawk 44 Magnum. Because you can load that with double-aught buck on your first shot, and slug to back it up on your second shot, make it a pump, Or if you can't have a pump because of current laws, double barrel, you know, one chamber is a slug and the other chamber is a double-aught buck. That's just my opinion on things, because bears do tend to have a nasty way of looking at us at times. But anyway,
absolutely.
That's just my opinion. Go ahead.
I'm sorry? I was just going to say we're really fortunate most of our areas.
Am I breaking up?
No, go ahead, sir.
Okay. You had mentioned knives earlier about, people's, different tastes. One thing I do have to say, all these Rambo knives that have the hollow handle is a no-no. You cannot use it as a chisel or a hammer on it. You'll bust it. Then you wind up having
Thank you so much for bringing that point up.
Yeah. I prefer a K-bar because it is designed to endure a lot. When the Marines had that knife designed, it was designed to be a multi-purpose knife. Now, I do have a buck 110. I collect other knives too. And I'm one of those people that had a moment of duh and got stuck on the side of a waterfall that had dried up. And they were going to send a search and rescue party after me because they were watching me from down at the bottom. And I was in the Maroon Bells. Anybody knows that place. It has a waterfall they call Death Falls. Don't go up it. There's a reason why there are big boulders at the bottom, okay? But now, by the grace of God, I had my knife with me and started making handholds and footholds eventually. But I kind of got stuck there for a while until I got a hold of my senses. But we all mess up. But don't ever leave on a trekking expedition without some kind of supplies. I do agree with you. I mean, you don't want to take 100 pounds in a backpack, but, maybe a little paracord, a good knife, some water, more than just an hour's worth of water. One little bottle of water isn't going to last long. But, hey, as far as your bow drill, have you thought about actually making a real bow out of wood fiber to make a string and a sapling to make your bow and then run the stick? It kind of works a little bit easier than using your feet, per se, especially if you get older like me and don't exactly comfortably sit Indian style, so to speak. But anyway, that's, just my 2 cents worth. I kind of do things a little bit on the easier side of life. Getting too old to
there's nothing at all wrong with doing things the easiest way. And, oftentimes people will see a bow drill that I've constructed and they'll use paracord or whatever, and they're like, oh, this rope is good or this rope is not bad, or what rope is this that we should use? And the honest answer is the best products to use are the ones you have, right? If you have nothing else, then you have to use, braided willow bark or braided willow or paracord, whatever.
I forgot to tell you, welcome to Freedomizer. My name's Larry.
That's all right.
Thanks, Larry.
Renee and I have a show called Critical Immunity. It's on Deep Nights.
When is it on?
Critical Immunity. We cover, health news. It's the first half hour, and then I'll cover farming, some stuff kind of like y'all. I do outdoor survival, except I do more of a, I guess, for lack of a better term, military survival, like you're out in the middle of nowhere with just your K-bar, what the heck you going to do kind of thing, and tell people, hey, stuff hit the fan, and now what? You're out in the woods.
That's great to hear, actually. And actually, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to have you back on the show sometime.
Sure. I drive a truck for a living, so I'm not always available, but there are times when I listen in and and stuff. Like today, so far I have a pretty good signal. I'm going through the Kentucky mountains, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, thank you very much. You're really bringing a smile to my face.
Hey, are y'all always on just Saturdays, or are y'all on more than one day a week?
At the moment, we just have the 1 hour, Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be our time slot for the next little while.
Okay.
That's 2 p.m. Pacific time.
If there comes another time slot, go for it if you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are a lot of people starving for this
biggest,
kind of knowledge, man.
Well, the biggest challenge that AD Venture and I face is that because of our skills and knowledge, we're always opportunity to work at camps, and most of the children's camps and adults outdoor education facilities are pretty remote. So the reason that we chose to do the show together is because...
You're both up in Canada, eh?
Correct.
Currently.
Yeah,
you
we're in
number
Canada.
Number 2 and number 3 on the Canadians, eh? You know who the crazy Canadian is?
Who's that?
Tammy. She has a show, too. So now we have 3 crazy
nice.
Canadians, eh?
That's
little humor there.
Cool.
That's connected.
There are people that... The southern folk down below the border, they're going, what's this guy saying A for? It's an inside joke. Canadians say A.
Yeah, it's like a little...
Anyway.
It's like
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about? Yeah, that's that Scottish influence. That's where you get the beat from. Yeah.
Funny.
Hey, welcome to the family,
Canada
you
was
guys.
one of the many... Thank you very much. And, of course, we are from Canada, yes, and Canada was a country built on bushcraft. If it was not for some of our intrepid pioneers, and America as well, of course, going out into the wilderness, learning how to survive, learning indigenous cultures and how their survival techniques and wild edibles and things, none of us would have survived in this environment.
Yep.
It's a very, very harsh environment.
The United States was founded because of frontiersmen cutting trails for the pilgrims that couldn't or wouldn't. They were afraid, had no skills. But, hey, guys, do your show, man. And glad to hear somebody besides me is talking about this stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And again, you're welcome to call anytime.
You bet.
All righty.
All right,
well, that was a great
everyone.
Call
so
from Larry.
That was Larry. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And again, we always encourage people to give us a ring any time. I'm just putting the mute button on there for Larry's call. For some reason, my system is a little bit laggy today, but that's all right. So we only have a couple of minutes left. We have about 2 minutes left to talk, I suppose, about what we're going to discuss in the next show. Will be
we've got a ton to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you take it away there.
Well, we're going to be definitely talking more about our everyday carry, and I'm looking very forward to that because this is one of these things that you can make your own. And depending on your needs or depending on how you want to equip yourself, this could even be a fashion statement for some people. But bottom line is your everyday carry ensures your safety, and we're going to be talking about that next week. We're also going to be talking about some tips and tricks, how to use a few little skills to advance yourself when it comes to bushcraft and just for everyday survival. And we're going to hear more from you listeners next week as well, which we're looking very forward to.
Yes, absolutely. And from time to time, we are going to have some guest speakers come on and talk a little bit about their outdoor experience. A couple of people in the lineup is a very famous Canadian caver by the name of Mick Gordon. He's written a couple of books. One of them is called Caves in Ontario and Rock Watching in Ontario. We are also going to have Rhonda Sage-Ursulak, who's a nature educator, come on, talk a little bit about what she does by way of educating children and teachers about how to get children outside. So with that, I guess that looks like we have about 1 minute left in the show. So we are going to sign off for the day, and we will see everyone next week.
This is AD Venture signing off.
All right. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. I'm the Wolfmaan, and please consider tuning in next week.